I've heard a couple of people say that maybe Tennessee controls its own destiny from here on out. And if so, what's that mean? You leave the weekend still as on the number one seed line, according to ESPN's Joe Lunardi, which is not everything, but, a bracketologist. It's more like Tennessee's battling with North Carolina now and still with Arizona for that Final Four. But going into the SEC tournaments, in order for Tennessee to, and I know it's not the end of the world 1 versus 2, but what does Tennessee, in your opinion, need to do in terms of, I guess, holding on to that one line? Do you need to win? Do you need to play to Sunday? Do you need to win 2 games? What's that look like for you? And really for Tennessee, of course, you want to win every single game you play, but what do you need to get out of this SEC tournament heading into the NCAA tournament?
I think super simple, but you want to get out healthy.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's a big deal. I don't pretend to know how they're going to view the tournament. Clearly, a couple of years ago when Tennessee won the whole thing, it didn't help them. Now, was that only because the SEC plays on Sunday? I don't know. I would think that you could be a little flexible. If you were actually going to put some emphasis on who won the tournament, then I would think it would be possible to slide somebody up or down a seed line, even if the game was on Sunday. So, this is just my opinion because you can never tell how they view the conference tournaments. Just avoid what would be kind of a bad loss on Friday. That would give a lot of attention. I mean, if it ends up being Auburn that you play on Saturday, that that's not going to be a loss that people could say, oh, that's a terrible loss or anything like that. In North Carolina, I can't remember exactly what the bracket looks like. Hubbard, what they have to win 2 games to even have a chance at getting a quad 1 win. Do they not?
Yeah, I think in that league where it's at, I mean, it's fascinating to me, and part of this for me is because Tennessee's not been in this situation, Rob. So I haven't followed it this close. I don't remember many years where there's this great debate on who the last number 1 seed is. Typically, when you go into conference tournaments, it feels like to me, and again, I haven't followed it close because Tennessee's not been in that conversation, but it feels like the number 1s have already been set. I mean, is this really that different of a year where there's 3 clear-cut number 1 seeds, right? We've got UConn, Houston, and Purdue. They're locks for number 1s. How many years is it that there's really 3 teams vying for the final number 1 seed? I don't know that we've had many years like this, which is why now suddenly you got a bracketologist who's looking for plenty of people to talk about what they talk about. It's saying now it's a 3-team race for a number 1 seed. It just doesn't feel like a normal year in that regard to me. So I don't know how they're going to view this.
Yeah, man. I guess I just don't understand the computer numbers because to me, I mean, what Tennessee's done in the SEC in conference play is not so far above and beyond, winning the ACC or the Pac-12 this year in years where those conferences just are nothing special at all.
Yeah, ACC is not what it used to be. That's for sure.
No, and same for the Pac-12 and Arizona with a couple. I mean, Washington State's a ranked team, but I mean Arizona's got swept by them. They got beat some other suspect losses in that league. Not USC most recently. To me, what Tennessee has done in the conference in this league, when you look at Kentucky, Alabama, Florida, Auburn, the quality of opponents that they've beaten, and in the case of Alabama, swept. I just don't get it. I think it's pretty cut and dry. But again, I guess I just don't understand all the computer numbers.
So Tennessee's going to enter the SEC tournament. It will take on, as you see from the bracket right there, if you're watching on our YouTube channel, we'll take on the winner of LSU and Mississippi State on Friday. That's the 8-9 matchup. And then if you win there, you're going to take on likely Auburn on Saturday. But, we'll see how it all plays out. Selection Sunday is coming up on Sunday of this weekend, and we'll see exactly where Tennessee is positioned to begin its run through the NCAA tournament.
Rob, I mean, just big picture SEC. You look at those Saturday potential matchups where the 4 number 1 seeds are. I don't know that anybody's got. I don't know anybody. I mean, I don't know that there's any lay down into that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think this Saturday stuff, even the Friday stuff in this league for this tournament is going to be pretty wild to watch. I mean, if Auburn and South Carolina play each other, I guess that's the Friday game, right? I mean,
yeah. That'll be after Tennessee.
I mean, that's a heck of a matchup. I mean, that's not a lay down. I think in a lot of previous years, you've had teams where you say, okay, they're going to be there Saturday, they're going to be there Sunday. I'm not sure you can look at the 4 top seeds and say, hey, they're a cakewalk into the Saturday semis. The semis could be awesome on Saturday because it's the top 4 seeds. I think this league's got a different vibe to it. I mean, Florida down there where they're sitting at, I don't know if anybody wants to play them, right?
No, I was looking at the bracket yesterday, and I think there's potential for havoc. I mean, heck, you mentioned the Friday games, and Mississippi State, they've beaten Tennessee this year. I mean, they're
Right.
not going to concede anything if they play Tennessee on Friday afternoon, and Mississippi State might need to win it to get in. I mean, I certainly don't think they're in. They're not going. They're taking anything for granted. They've lost some bad ones, but I think there's really some potential for havoc in the bottom of that bracket. Texas A&M has been all over the map. They could get hot
Right.
and beat Kentucky on Friday. Florida has took Alabama to overtime in Tuscaloosa. They could win that game. I just think anything could happen in the bottom of that bracket. And like you mentioned, South Carolina and Auburn, that'll be a war Friday afternoon. I mean, Tennessee should be a pretty solid favorite over here where they play, but that won't be a laydown. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of good teams. I mean, we talk about how much better the league is, and when you start talking about the matchups that you might see on Friday and Saturday, you're talking about a lot of teams that are going to be in the NCAA tournament field.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy. And A&M may be the most desperate team out of that group, in terms of need and win. I guess Mississippi State, but I mean, where are those teams at in terms of getting in? They need to make a bit of a run. I mean, A&M can make some noise. They found their footing the last 2 weeks. I don't know. I think Friday is going to be pretty fascinating in Nashville. As competitive of a Friday as we've seen that tournament. And Rob, you've seen that tournament a lot. There have been some dogs on those quarterfinal games for a while.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Friday may give Jimmy Dykes the vapors.
Should be fun to watch, though.
Oh, absolutely. It should be really fun to watch.
I mean, and again, I mean, I hope the conference tournament does mean something for seeding, because I think the SEC can make a strong case for themselves for some seeding and getting some people in if you pay attention to Friday. I mean, if you're the SEC, you're hoping that the conference tournament matters because some guys can clearly help themselves. Because you got a lot of quad 1 type games going to be played on Friday in this conference that aren't going to be played in the other big conferences.
Yep, that's a good point.
But if you're a Tennessee fan, you're just saying, I mean, what are we doing here? We're wasting our time. Let's get out of here. Let's play a game, win a game. It's almost like.
Yeah, I think that is the challenging thing. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Eric. I think, Rob, that is the challenging thing if you're Rick Barnes. I mean, competitively, you show up to play to win, right? But, I mean, the grind of 3 days, where do you want to be? Is it that big of a deal? I mean, you don't mail anything in, but, I mean, like, where do you put stock in how important the conference tournament is at this point when you're who Tennessee is?
Yeah,
right?
I may be wrong, and maybe the committee, pretty wrong. I just don't think it's that big of a deal. It's really fun for fans. I mean, like the location and the setting, have just the pageantry, having all the schools in the league there. I mean, it's a big deal for fans. I mean, it should be. I don't know about big deal, but it's there's a lot of pomp and circumstance. It's a lot of fun, a lot of pageantry. But in the big picture, I just don't think it's a huge deal unless you're trying to get that auto bid or, maybe in Tennessee's case, pad your resume a little bit. But, I give Cal credit. Cal came out after the game on Saturday in Knoxville and said, well, you told media guys, which tournament matters to me, and it's not the one next week. It's
because Cal's, I mean, what are they? Where are they going to be in the national tournament? What, a 5 seed, 3 seed, 4 seed, somewhere in there?
I think a 3 or a 4.
I mean, if he wins it, maybe they're a lock for a 3, but they're not going to get to a 2 seed. I don't think if they win the tournament. I don't think they can move up that much. So, I mean, how much can he help themselves?
I mean, Nardi has him as his 10th overall seed. So could they move up to a 2? They would have to pass Creighton and Iowa State, and I will freely admit that not knowing what Creighton and Iowa State have in front of them.
Every year is different, but Tennessee did not move up a seed line after winning the tournament a couple of years ago.
No, and also, who did Tennessee beat? They beat Texas A&M in the championship game. They beat Kentucky on Saturday. So that
Mississippi State on Friday, I believe.
So I mean, the Kentucky game would certainly have been a noteworthy win.
No,
but maybe it would be different this year because of how strong the league is. if you win it this year, you've beaten Auburn most likely on Saturday, and either Kentucky or Bama on Sunday. So maybe that gives you a little more juice.
And again, that's taking into consideration that the selection committee is actually watching and taking notes on Sunday games and not calling it a day on Saturday. So, we'll see. Rob Lewis, Grant Ramey, everybody here at Volquest will be watching and covering Tennessee in the SEC tournament. That is coming up this weekend.